How could you improve Kolchak the Night Stalker? Was the Monster of the Week formula a drag on the series? Well, yeah, it made it kind of preposterous that this reporter keeps bumping into monsters and aliens and robots and ghosts in Chicago, of all places, and he's the only person who ever bumps into them. Well, yeah, you could have improved it with something a little bit better in terms of the story development and the development of the series, which was going to be very challenging in the 1970s. You have to remember, no VCRs in those days. And if a show aired on network TV, it may have aired, the original airing once, one repeat, and then you move on to the next season. And you probably wouldn't see an episode from a previous season aired on network again, maybe, but it's certainly not all of them, until they went into syndication. And even then, your chances of seeing that same episode once or twice or 3 times during the year would be challenging. It can only air like something with 100 episodes over the course of a year. You're going to get a 3-time repeat. Also, because people couldn't see every episode, couldn't tape things, couldn't stream things, couldn't record things, they recorded reel-to-reel audio, which was a lost art in those days, or a lost art these days. But you couldn't have a series that somebody couldn't just pick up on in the middle. And that's why everything from that era was so formula-driven, whether it was a cop show or a medical show or a private detective or a Western. You had cast of characters, you had the general premise, and then you had adventure to adventure to adventure to adventure, staying within a similar theme. With Kolchak the Night Stalker, the easiest tweak they could have done to it was to go the fugitive route, which essentially is the same trope that the TV show The Immortal or The Incredible Hulk or forgotten series from the 80s, Hot Pursuit, where the main characters are after someone or something as a goal, and that drives them through the series, like The Invaders, where Roy Thins is trying to prove the invaders are planning on replacing humans and conquering the world, and he's chasing the invaders. And some episodes you get more invaders than others. That helps keep it a little fresh while maintaining the same coherent theme. And with Kolchak the Night Stalker, I believe, and I'm not sure, but I think an original concept was that Skorzeny the vampire from the TV movie, is still alive, and Kolchak has to kill him or find him or prove that he exists. I don't know how far they got with that. I don't even know. There might have been a one-day discussion. I have no idea how credible that is. But had they used that premise where Kolchak either has to prove that vampires exist or defeat Skorzeny, I keep mispronouncing the name. What'll happen is it'll give you a consistency through the series, and you could have an episode without monsters. You could have a criminal episode, like where the mob is somehow involved, or Kolchak runs across a extortion racket or whatever. Corrupt politicians on the take for some organization associated with the vampire or whatever. They don't know he's a vampire because the vampire's not going to tell anybody all this. And this leads you into adventures where the horror element is still floating around. It's still out there, but the proceedings are not fantastic. And it gives you believable episodes and a consistent storyline, but at the same time, varying degrees of horror and fantasy, so that it doesn't become, boring with the Monster of the Week formula, which would eventually burn an audience out. And then because you had the vampire element, there could be an episode, like not a Monster of the Week, but maybe a monster every 4 episodes or 5 episodes, where, let's say, Kolchak's looking for the vampire, and he discovers that the vampire's buddy, the werewolf, is doing something, and that leads to a 1 or 2 part episode with a werewolf. And maybe there's some scientist, and that's where Mr. Ring the robot comes from. And you have these scary stories that are kind of separated by more believable, more routine, cop show, detective show style, intrepid reporter formula. And you could even shake things up, like even have a whimsical episode here or there, like the Bionic Man did, and like a Bionic Christmas Carol, one of those deals. So there was a bit more you could play with, but the series was rushed into production, and the Monster of the Week formula reflected very little thought into the development of the series. And when you are rushed, it's very difficult to flesh things out. It was a very troubled production, and it bombed in the ratings, so it wasn't like there was going to be any priority to fix it. But had the show succeeded, I think that they may have changed gears a bit in the second season, I hope, and do something akin to, something beyond the Monster of the Week formula, which unfortunately was very up and down in terms of quality. Sometimes it was really cool. Sometimes, it was kind of like same old, same old.